Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Sharing Wisdom. Today, I'm excited because I not only have a great guest for you all, but I have a friend of mine too. Tara Wilson, founder of the Tara Wilson Agency and creator of the Fierce Lab app and live event, is here joining me. I hold a special place for her because I've spoken at her event a few times, and I've seen women literally transform before my eyes at the events that she holds. So it's always special being in your company. Thanks for being here, Tara.
Angie, thanks for having me. I'm so honored that you would have me on your podcast and that I would get an opportunity to talk with you. The roles are reversed now. You've been on our podcast and I had the pleasure of getting to interview you. So I'll try and do my best to not do the interviewing, but be the guest.
I know how that is. I actually remember being on your podcast, and gosh, that was probably, I don't even know, it was back in 2019, I believe. And I was a guest on there, and we were laughing because it's so hard for me not to ask the questions. I think at one point I was like, well, could I ask you a question? Because it's hard not to be in the seat.
You did. You dug into some of my, that what I call the head trash, and you wanted to
yes.
kind of work through it. And so I got a little free coaching in that particular podcast episode. And I think that was the first time that the tables have been turned on me. So for anybody out there that doesn't do a podcast, it can be very uncomfortable when you're sitting in the other seat. So I hope I do this justice.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure you will. And just to say, you are always welcome to flip it back to me. I'm happy if you want to ask any questions. You can wear both seats today. So. Okay. Perfect. But I am really excited for you to be here. And as I said in the beginning, I really wanted you to come on and share more about Fierce Lab Live, because I've been to your event, I believe, the last 2 years. And each time I've met women there and they have experienced some type of this aha moment, this light bulb that's gone off that has created such drastic change for them in their lives. And then to hear from them later or to see them post something about it is just truly, truly special. And I feel like more people should know that that's out there and available.
Thank you. Yeah. So Fierce Lab Live is an empowerment platform for women, and it is our live event. So we have Fierce Lab, which is a community where we focus on career development, financial intelligence, mental health, self-care, and risk-taking. And in that community, we connect with women across a variety of platforms, from our social media channels to our community-based app that you mentioned, to our in-person small monthly live events. But once a year, we host a conference called Fierce Lab Live. And yes, you have been in attendance the last 2 years, Angie, as a panelist and or a workshop presenter. And it's just a moment where we curate not only the speakers in the room, but also the attendees. And what we're looking to do is create a powerful moment among women to talk about the things that we are facing, that all women are facing, but sometimes maybe we feel a little isolated and alone with. And we want to bring those topics and conversation to the forefront and really bring women together to talk about them. I often say that Fierce Lab is the space where I like to tell other women's stories, because if I can take a moment from your story, Angie, and a moment from somebody else's story, and I can start to map that on my own map, then I start to get a roadmap for how I can do it too. When I was in my 20s, I felt like I was the only one that didn't have it figured out. And the truth is, that's not the case at all. None of us have it figured out. And maybe we're projecting that we do, the fake it till we make it. But in this space, this is where we come together and we drop our guard, we get a little bit vulnerable, and we share these experiences that we're having so that we can all move forward and create something powerful in our lives and be our best selves.
Yeah. And you really do create that space. And going back to what you said earlier about when you said you were the only one who felt like, you were in this place. There is such power in that group atmosphere and knowing that you are not alone. And I often experience this when I have a group coaching program where at the end and I'll say, what was the best thing, or what did you learn, or what stood out to you? And so many times they will say, I hate to say this, but it was really good knowing that I'm not the only one who's dealing with this stuff, and I'm not the only one who has these thoughts, because it really can be detrimental to the kind of the mindset and your self-belief if you really do think this is only me. Yeah. So when you get around those other people and you find out, oh, this isn't just me, it just kicks up that confidence and that empowerment drastically. Absolutely. For you to go, oh, there is hope. There is opportunity. Let's dig in and make a change.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge component of it.
There is so much power in that community share. That's why I think we hear so much today that, the buzzword is storytelling. And I think it stems from, we all remember stories, sometimes more than we remember facts and figures. We remember stories and how they make or made us feel. And in the case of Fierce Lab, Fierce Lab was born out of my agency. And what we noticed was that there were a lot of conferences that were happening or being developed for women that were interested in becoming entrepreneurs or were already exploring businesses. There were conferences for women that stayed in like the creative spaces. But what we were seeing was there was not this fun, creative, curated experience for a woman that's building a career inside an organization. And we said, that's the woman we want to serve because we are her. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur, but I have a team of women that work for me, and they're all very interested in what that career path can look like. And so when we started to think about what else goes hand in hand with how you build your career, we said, okay, well, how you take care of your mental health, your self-care, your physical health, that's just as important. What you're thinking when it comes to your finances. And we know it's historically been considered taboo for women to talk about money. And thank goodness the millennial generation and down have started to break that cycle. And we are starting to talk about our wealth and our wealth building. So we really wanted to bring that into play. And then there's that piece about taking risks. So many women get marred down in all the what ifs and the fear and the unknown and what will they think. And we wanted to say, Fierce Lab is a space that you can explore taking a risk and it be safe to do so. And we're here to coach and encourage and support if you want to step out and try something that you personally may deem risky. Might not be risky to me, but it might be risky to you. We want you to feel supported in that. So that was kind of the impetus behind why Fierce Lab and this concept of a lab. What do you do? When you, well, at least when I was in college and I was thinking about taking labs, they were for experimentation. We'd go to these labs and we'd work on things. And that's a big part of why we called it Fierce Lab, is because we want you to explore.
And I think that's been a really neat part of it in your events, because I speak at a lot of events and I go to a lot of events. And like you said, sometimes it's very structured for a particular industry or a mind, or sometimes they're just very motivational and inspirational. And you go there and you get fired up. But what your event does that I think is different is it's kind of like this, you don't know what you don't know. And so you go there and you are like, wow, somebody's talking about career development. And I thought maybe I was fine in my career, but I realized there is more. I can negotiate for this higher salary or what it looks like to move up. The same with the financial, the risk, the mental health. It's just this great little potpourri of topics where you don't have to set out and go, well, I'm coming here because I want to be fired up and I want to do this and that. You just come and you learn, like you said in this lab, take in some information, and then I feel like with every single sector in there, or pillar, I should say, you have this little moment and you're like, that's kind of challenging some of those thoughts and maybe creating opportunity. So it really is this just come and play and see what you learn and see what resonates with you, because most people don't know what they want.
Right.
And so if you wait until you know what you want, well, sure, it's easy to seek it out then. You go find this coach or you go find this vet specific for it. But if you don't know what you want, you just want to keep growing,
Yep.
you provide that, playground for that.
Oh, I love that. I love that descriptor, that I'm providing a playground for growth. I might have to steal that. And it's so true, because I know, especially when I was younger, I could tell you what I didn't want, but I wasn't quite certain about what I did want. And so I was stripping things away to get at the core of what I still loved and liked and wanted to pursue. And what I think makes Fierce Lab Live so special is that, going back to that curation piece of not just the speakers that we curate, but the women in the room too. They're coming from all walks of life, all industries. And it's really this opportunity to connect and network. I'm a networker at heart. Not everybody is as outgoing as myself, but that's where I get energy, is when I get to meet new people and I start to see opportunities to connect and explore and maybe even collaborate. And Fierce Lab kind of provides those moments of connection and opportunity to at least explore collaboration with other women. And I've seen it. Like, Kate Tonda is one of our past speakers, and she did a really incredible workshop that she had developed. She's a leader at Walmart on the e-commerce team. And she found that the women on her team wanted to advance and grow their career, but tactically, they weren't really sure the steps. So Kate created this curriculum for them that walked them through how to build a roadmap to like their future career success. And so last year she came and she presented that workshop at Fierce Lab Live. And so many women have talked to me, just the same as they talked to me about you, Angie. They come back to me and they say, I connected with Kate on LinkedIn and I'm keeping her updated with my career path. And I know women are doing that with you as well. And, now that your new book is out, they're coming back and they're exploring your book and how that relates to your workshop that you taught. That is so rewarding to me when I see those connections continue to happen. These women, they may or may not end up coaching one-on-one with you, but they still consider you a valuable person inside their network that is guiding them, and they're leveraging you as a resource even long after Fierce Lab Live.
Yeah. And that's a special part to me. I mean, I'm a connector at heart as well. And I like to touch everyone individually and try to inspire or impact. And I want to see what that comes, what comes of it. So I love that aspect of it too. It's not necessarily this, oh, well, here, somebody's coming to speak to you, but good luck ever talking to them or having any kind of connection with them. Just put them up there on this mighty pedestal and, sit there in awe of it. No, all these people are genuinely, showing up for each other and asking the questions and supporting. And, I want to talk about that a little bit more as far as the different areas, because the pillars are unique. There's meaning behind them. And I know that you said this sprouted from, Terry Wilson Agency and what you did from a marketing and advertising standpoint. So how did those really fit together as far as the agency and then coming up with this Fierce Lab?
Yeah, so back in the fall of 2018, we had a team retreat. I had candidly been on a client site visit / meeting and had made the comment that as an agency doing experiential, meaning live events, that we really understood how to create live events for women. Because we had a few under our belt and we had this team of really talented, creative women. But the client kind of challenged me and said, really? How do you proof that out? and that stuck with me because, yes, we were doing these things, but we really hadn't started to own that space, even though we wanted to. So by the fall, when we were doing a team retreat and we were exploring all options, the team started to vocalize how they wanted to create something that was meaningful and experiential, that was from a place that they owned it and that they visualized what it would be. Instead of we work for so many Fortune 500 companies and we do what they need and we create around what their strategic objective is. And so we said, let's have our own, which is uplifting women. And by doing that, we'll continue to proof out this work that we do with women as an experiential agency. So that's how it started. And then my own personal story started to weave into it, because Fierce Lab is for that entry to mid-level career woman. If you're a C-suite woman, you're likely being invited to speak. Sure, you can definitely attend, but our content is not geared toward that executive leader. Our content is geared toward the woman that's starting out or is kind of in what I call the messy middle and is trying to figure out that next step. And so the team really wanted to create something. And as we were discussing it, I was seeing myself in it, what I had experienced coming into the real world and thinking, like I said, that everybody had it figured out. And when I started to tell that story of that I felt isolated and alone, and that in my late 20s, I was dealing with my own mental health issues, but this was back before people really talked about it, and that I didn't know how to truly manage my money. Like all of these pillars started to come together, and we realized like these are the core foundational pieces that a woman needs in order to truly feel like she's building her career on something solid. And so that's how the pillars came about.
And thank you for sharing that. And I'll ask a couple questions on that, but I think it's super important to go back as people are listening and going, like what kind of event this is. You casually threw out there, your agency does work with these Fortune 500 companies. I mean, some of the names of the companies, I don't know them off the top of my head. I think Samsung and Nike. I mean, share a few of them that you've done business with.
Worked with Samsung and Nike, ESPN, PepsiCo is also a client. We've done work for DFW International Airport. We've the American Red Cross. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as an agency, we're creating experiences for their consumer. And again, we're getting back to their strategic objectives from the point of a marketing point of view. And we love doing that. I mean, that we definitely do, but we wanted something that was from our strategic point of view too.
Absolutely. I mean, I wanted people to hear though, like this is not new for you. You know what I mean? No. This is what you've been doing, creating these experiences for Fortune 500 companies that are landing on being really successful, and you taking that formula and going, okay, let's do that over here for, I love your term that, these women maybe in that kind of messy middle area. So it is not new. And I have to say, I mean, for anyone who is listening who hasn't been to it, you put on a great event. There's all the extra bells and whistles. I was at an event a couple weeks ago, and I'm a little spoiled, I think, when I come to yours because of all the little extras you get and the fine details and just everything, the experience that you create instead of just listening to somebody speak. So I think that's special. Your 4 pillars, though, in my mind over here, from a coaching perspective, I'm like, okay, passion, right? When you talk about career development, that's the passion piece. What do you want to do? What fills you? Fear always pops up for people in being afraid of what's going to happen or maybe taking that risk. So I love that that's in there too. And then the finances, I mean, very few times do I talk to somebody who has got all their finances in order. You and I both come from that financial industry background. So to us, it's like, it makes sense, but to everyone else, they don't teach you that in school.
Right.
And so having that financial intelligence is huge.
And we've learned over time, since this will be our 4th live event, we've learned what women are asking for and wanting to experience. So there is that woman who's coming in who she wants direction around, how do I set my budget? How do I manage my credit score? How do I change my mindset around what I believe about money? I was taught this growing up, but I'm hearing that this is really the way it should be. And so we have a really great workshop, kind of all around what I'm going to call Money 101. And it's more around budgeting, managing your mindset, understanding how money works and how you can make it work for you. But then we also know that there are women who have kind of checked that box. They've gotten those pieces organized for themselves, and they're ready to take that next step. So how do I really start to dig into investing? Yeah, I've got my 401k set up, and I do a few other things, but I'm ready to take it to the next level. So we're going to be doing a workshop around money 102. So you have 101, and now here's your next step as to how you can elevate yourself. So that's part of the benefit of this being our 4th year, is we know, okay, it's time to take it to the next level. Women are asking for this. Let's bring that to them. So I'm glad you brought up the financial intelligence piece, because that's a great example.
Yes. It is. And it almost reminds me of you get to register for your classes. If you're having it the same way as you did last year, you really look at the agenda, and it's not this where you have to sit through all these things. It's well, do I want this or do I want this? What is, kind of more important to me right now? Or do I want to prioritize? What level am I at? So you really have this ability to curate your own experience instead of everyone doing the exact same thing, which is... And is fun, but also sometimes a hard decision, right?
It's exactly right. And that kind of new formatting came out of year 1, where people were telling us, hey, this was great. I love sitting through all 4 panel discussions around the pillars, but I feel pretty intelligent about my finances. I would have liked to have had a different option. And, from an event perspective and building out a conference, programming is the biggest undertaking. I tell people it's putting a puzzle together, and we start with putting all the pieces on the table, meaning who are the speakers, who are the fireside chats, who are the workshop presenters, and we get all those commitments, and then we start to put the puzzle together so that it becomes the most impactful, not only for the attendees in the room, but also the speakers that are there and participating. And so you start to see, okay, I've got to create something for everyone, and you do the best that you can, but the programming is probably the most challenging part. The little details that you see, Angie, and that you talk about, I would tell you those things come naturally to us being experiential marketers and creating events. Sure. we love doing it. We love the surprise and delight moments that we get to bring to our conference. So. But I'm glad.
And they truly are.
The
when you walk into, the VIP evening the night before, and the reception and the gifts and all that, it's all very, very well put together and fun. But going back to actually what you just talked about was, kind of choosing your own curriculum and being in the areas that you want to be. You mentioned kind of the fireside chat, and it just dawned on me. Yeah, I'm sure that's a large part of your work, because you also don't do everything the same. You really change it up. If you're going to spend all day at a conference, it's not okay, here's your seat. You're in the same seat all day. Right. You're panel, workshop, fireside chat, it's a variety of different things to keep you engaged and stimulated. I'm assuming that's all intentional on your behalf.
It is, absolutely. There are some women that were everyone needs to hear her story. We think it's important. And so we try and create those moments as a fireside chat. So you may recall last year, Priya Patel, a partner at McKinsey, joined us to kick off the morning, and she presented the McKinsey Lean In Women in the Workplace study. It had just come out 2 days before. So she kicked off Fierce Lab Live with us as a fireside chat, because that information really set the tone for the entire day. But then to your point, we move through, we'll have what I call a refresh, a break. And then we'll go into, you get to choose as the attendee. Do you want to go to a panel discussion, or do you want to go to a workshop? You get to choose. And once those have happened, they're gone. I mean, it's really hard to say, okay, let's create that programming again in the afternoon. So what happens in the morning it's a once and done. I often hear people say, I had such a tough time choosing. You had so much great content. So I guess that's a good problem to have. But yeah, we do
absolutely
create these moments so no one is sitting all day bored, that because some people, they want to be in a workshop. That's how they learn. They want
Absolutely.
to be doing something interactive, and other people are auditory and they want to be listening. For myself, I love that networking, that time that we get during the coffee connections and the lunch and the happy hour. That's what feeds me, because that's where I get to really have those in-depth one-on-one conversations. So yes, we do try and build something out for everyone. So.
I love it. I love it. I want to ask you a couple of preferences or personal opinions, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit.
All
but
right.
What, from your past events, what's been maybe one of your favorite stories as far as with somebody as a guest, somebody as an attendee, and what you've seen change or what feedback, anything like that? What's been your favorite standout story?
One of my dearest friends, has been to every Fierce Lab Live, and she came to the very first one, and we brought in a speaker who has a pretty big Instagram presence, and she was presenting her keynote, and she was telling the story of her I believe it was her father who passed away. And the sentiment of that story that she was sharing in her keynote was, don't die with your gifts inside. And this dear friend of mine was still working in corporate America, was feeling undervalued, but it was impactful for her. Hearing those words, she lost her mother a few years prior herself, and her mother was an extremely creative person. And I feel like that was a catalyst for her for a lot of other things that she has gone on and done. I'm not trying to take credit for the wonderful success that she has had as an entrepreneur, but I do feel like that planted a seed. And we talk about it often, that she remembers, I don't want to die with my gifts inside. So that was
absolutely
super.
It's those one-liners sometimes, it's like one liner from somebody who shares something, and it's like, that's it. That's what I meant earlier about those aha moments or those light bulb moments when you could have heard someone talk for an hour and they say one little line and you're like, that just changed my whole perspective.
Totally. Then last year, I had been connecting with a woman for agency purposes. It was just someone kind of in the path of approvership on a project. And I happened to notice in her signature that she mentioned she was part of her company's women's ERG. And she put it in the signature of her emails. So I knew it was important to her. And something just spoke to me and said, you should reach out to this young woman and invite her to be your guest at Fierce Lab. And so I did. And I actually invited her to come as a VIP. So she came the evening before to our VIP speaker reception and then stayed for the full day. She made the commitment. Like, she flew from Colorado on her own dime, but I offered up the ticket. And I remember her holding my hands at the VIP reception and saying, I don't know what I did to deserve this, and I don't know why you chose me, but I am so grateful to be here. I know you've stayed in touch with her, Angie. I know she thinks very highly of you, and you've had a big impact on her. She's continued to stay in touch with me. Unfortunately, she went through a round of layoffs, but she reached out, and we were able to connect her with new people and make new connections for her. Not that she necessarily got a new job because of that, but I tell people Fierce Lab is much more than just the conference. It's about how we stay connected and how we stay in touch with one another moving forward. And I just remember like that being so powerful, like whatever, like the decision to invite her was huge for her. And it touched her in such a way that it touched me. So.
I remember that. I literally remember at the VIP reception, and I was like asking her about how, what brought her here. And she was like, actually, and I thought that's just so amazing, that just kind of internal, that gut instinct that you knew that this was the right thing to do to extend that invitation to her. And I love that. Gosh, what you said about the connections, I think is super important too. And we often don't think about it. Everyone every day is trying to make connections. I mean, you're on LinkedIn, right? And you're like, I won't even go into that conversation. That's a whole nother podcast on how people make connections on LinkedIn, but right? Everyone, it's about connections, and not that they're ill-intended when they reach out on LinkedIn that way. But when you can meet somebody face to face and have a real connection with them, you've just skipped like years of trying to establish this online and talk and connect and have that little 10-minute call and all these things. It's like, that is just a whole nother value in itself.
Right. Yeah. I mentor a young woman. I started mentoring her when she was a freshman going off to college. And now she has finished her master's degree and gotten her first job. But all along the way, I've had an opportunity to play a role for her, from helping her secure a car loan several years ago to a dear friend of mine saying, oh, I want to connect with her because I was also an accounting major, and I'm not personally an accounting major, but my friend had all this key insight and helped her get an internship and then a job offer and so on and so forth. And I just continually go back and tell her this is about connections, that this is the way the world works.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been brought up in a family where connections and introductions are like first instincts. So maybe what I'm trying to say is if you haven't been brought up in a world of privilege, Fierce Lab can be that space to start to give you those opportunities, to start to make those connections and find a rhythm that works for you as a woman. That's what I want Fierce Lab to be, and that's what I see it being for women. It doesn't matter where you came from, what kind of access you've had before. Fierce Lab should be a place where these women come together and we're all there to support and help and provide that access going forward. And we've made it's very important to myself and the Fierce Lab team that we have a diverse audience and a diverse group of speakers, because all stories matter. And we know that my point of view is not the only point of view. And that's also really important. I don't know how I got off on this little tangent here, but I just wanted to be sure and shout that out.
Yeah, well, like you said, we was tying into the connections, and that is huge. And not everybody has those just built into their life and their background. And I think that's important, because I'm going through my mind, and it's like when you meet somebody like that, you connect with them on this different level. You hear their real story. We're not in this business mode anymore, right? We're not connecting to do business, connecting as human beings and women in this circle. Like, there's just a stronger connection. And I think, gosh, if the women that I met, if they reached out and said, hey, can you help me with this? Do you have a connection for that? 100%, and that's powerful.
Yeah.
But I also have to tell you, my mind is churning over here about you giving her an invitation. And I want to do that. I want to sponsor at least one, if not two people to come to your event.
Oh, wow. Angie, that's so generous of you. Wow. Okay.
I just was like, so we have to figure that out. We'll do something along the lines of hey, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to attend Fierce Lab, then there'll be something in the show notes and you can fill that out. And we're going to give away at least one or two tickets, depending on how many people put their name up for it. But I think that everyone deserves an opportunity to be there. And they may not have the means or the. Yeah.
Let me add to that.
Ooh, this is getting fun.
Well, I'll say this. You are inviting them on a general admission ticket, and I will upgrade them to VIP. How about that? So they would have to come in on Monday the 2nd.
Yeah.
And the VIP event is on Monday night, roughly 6 p.m. So if we know they're coming, we'll get them all the details, and they can come on a VIP ticket. How about that?
I love it. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to share. I really I'm such a lover of this event and what it can do, even if you don't know yet what you need and why you need it. So I love it.
Thank you so much. You're so kind to
double team that then.
Share this with your audience, but also to you've been such a great supporter of mine and of Fierce Lab from speaking at Fierce Lab Live to you've done webinars with us. You've been on my podcast. I mean, it's a pleasure to know you and to think I met you through Instagram. I
know. Isn't that crazy? Yes. So that connection definitely was real. And thanks. I love being a part of it. I truly love the women that you get together in a group and like to be part of that impact zone. So let me ask you one more thing though, as we're talking about people attending the event, and I want to hear a little bit more about speakers. So, and I know this is even more putting you on the spot, but past favorite speaker moments. I mean, I know I have mine story from somebody who I was like, oh my gosh, that was when Swell, the founder of Swell.
So you took mine, Sarah Kaus.
Oh, see,
Sarah Kaus.
Her story, yes,
my hero. So just a little bit of backstory there. In 2017, I had to look at something on the wall over here to remember. In 2017, for the first time ever, I made the Inc. 5000 list for Tara Wilson Agency. And Sarah was a keynote speaker, or I should say she was a fireside chat. And I made sure to move to the front of the room and sit on the front row. She was one of the few women that was on the docket. And she told her story of starting Swell Bottle and how she went and she met Howard Schultz with Starbucks. And he told her, you're not ready. You're not ready to be in Starbucks. And she still managed to convince him to take 3,000 Swell bottles and put them in the store for holidays. And I was just like, this woman is after my heart. So after seeing her speak at the Inc. conference, I rushed out and I saw her leaving way down this long corridor. And I was like, Sarah, I have to talk to you. And in the course of that quick little exchange, she said, keep in touch with me, and gave me her work email. And so I did. And for 2 years, I worked on cultivating a relationship with her. And then in 2021, she was our keynote speaker. And she had ended up having to join us virtually kind of at the last minute. Yeah. But yes, just such a powerful moment. She has now she sold Swell to Corning last year. So she had a great exit. And that's probably
her story was just, it was such a fun story, even the way she told it, about having her supply of Swell bottles under her kitchen table, and peddling them around, from place to place, trying to get people to buy some of these bottles. And just, you hear stories like that. And it closes this gap. I think many women or conference attendees, going back to that pedestal moment, well, I could never do that. I could never have this. They had different circumstances. And then you hear a story like that and you're like, no, she didn't have any money. She made a small supply of these bottles and was literally walking into Starbucks trying to get them to, put them in their inventory. So it literally started from what anybody else could start something with. And I think those stories really give a lot of inspiration and hope for people to take the risk, right?
I think for 2023, I can share that one of our big initiatives with kind of our overarching programming is that you as an attendee or you as a speaker walk away knowing anything is possible. Anything is possible because it all begins in your mind. And if you believe that you can do it, it truly does not matter what other people think. And I hope that we weave that thread throughout the entire day so that women walk away feeling so empowered and with the knowledge that if there is something they want, they can have it. They can achieve it for sure.
I love it. I think you just set an intention for Fierce Lab 2023.
I love it. There you go.
I heard it. I heard it right here. Yes. So with that being said, I think we end on that. That is a beautiful intention for people to come and receive. So gosh, I'm really hoping that it's a tremendous event for you this year and that us spreading this word will attract more people to go there, to get on your playground, to grow and to see the opportunity and connect with people truly. Any last details? Actually, Tara, if you can give out the information, where can they go to figure out? We should have said this is October 3rd in Fort Worth. Give us details on where they can buy tickets, information, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So you would go to fierce-lab.com/events. That'll take you specifically to the event page. It is on Tuesday, October 3rd in Fort Worth, Texas. The VIP event is the evening before on October 2nd. It is a full day of program on the 3rd. It kicks off at 8:30 in the morning and it concludes at 6 p.m. And so if you go to fierce-lab.com/events, that's where you'll find the full slate of speakers. And soon we'll be announcing the actual run of show for the day. That'll be up too.
I love it. Love it. And I will have in the show notes a link to request that sponsored ticket on my behalf, and then Tara upgrading it to a VIP. So register and get your chance to be at Fierce Lab Live. Tara, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you, Angie. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate you and your support.